So sitting in front of your bolster, spread the chest open, come down to your elbows, support your head and neck. And then extend one leg at a time, the other leg, extend the hands down to the feet. Settle yourself into Pranayama Shavasana. Good morning. We're in Pranayama Shavasana. So bolster and a blanket. Okay. Support yourself as you lie down. Extend one leg at a time. And then become quiet. Feel yourself draping over your bolster. So, without having to hold yourself up, allow yourself to allow your weight to settle into the earth and to kind of wrap yourself around your bolster. As if you were like a coat or something, a piece of cloth. Let the shoulders drop down away from the ears and to the floor. Bigger soft. Give a little external rotation to the upper arm bone so that so you can balance the hands on the middle knuckle. Have the arms parallel with the trunk. Observe the places where you habitually hold. So it might be the root of the thumb. It might be the pit of the throat. It might be abdominal gripping. It might be tension between the shoulder blades. So just notice where your spots, what spots you might be habitually holding, and then soften those areas. Let the thumb fall in toward the index finger. Let the little toes drop down to the floor. Soften the throat as you allow the chin to come down, back of the neck to lengthen. We worked on that a lot last week, the lengthening of the back of the neck and the throat softening. So recreate that now. So today, it being week one of our asana rotation, standing poses week, I've been thinking about how do our legs engage in pranayama. And it's kind of an odd question because there's no lung tissue in our legs. There's no breathing apparatus in our legs. But we do have prana running through the entire body, including the legs. So in that regard, the legs are participants in pranayama. Every asana has a pranic shape. Every asana has a pranic gesture, you could say. And so the legs are involved. And so as you lie here in Pranayama Shavasana, imagine that the breath starts from the tips of your toes. And as you inhale, the prana is drawing up from the tips of your toes, through your legs, through your thighs, into the trunk, all the way up to the top of the collarbones. And then exhaling, send the breath down the usual path, but then send it beyond the usual path, out through the tips of the toes. So you feel that channel of the prana, the flow of the prana, even through the legs. So keep this awareness going for the next few minutes. As you continue in this manner, you might even feel like a little bit of warmth or tingling in the feet and legs. So this is how you know that you are connecting your consciousness to your pranic body. So we have the 5 sheaths, the koshas, the 5 layers of the body. And so the pranamaya kosha is the layer that's more inward. Annamaya kosha is the anatomical body, skin, muscle, bones. Pranayama kosha is the physiological body, the energy body, the life force body. And so you can bring your awareness to the pranamaya kosha and support and enhance the pranic flow, the pranic shape through your awareness. So it's not always just action that awakens the movement of the prana, but it's also consciousness. You know, I'm sure that you understand this because, you've experienced how even your thoughts can make your heart race. You know, even your thoughts can raise your blood pressure and make you agitated. And then conversely, your thoughts can calm you down and slow down your heart rate, lower your blood pressure. So we know that our thoughts are connected to our physiology. So in that regard, we understand that our thoughts are connected to our prana, the life force, the vitality, the ki, or chi in other languages. So continue with this awareness of the breath, starting from your toes, starting from the tips of your toes, traveling up through your legs, reaching the trunk, all the way up to the collarbones, and then exhaling back down and exhaling through the toes. Now, let's start to add a little bit more support to this awareness. When you feel the breath reach your trunk, then do all the things that we've talked about. So lengthen through the sides of the waist, sides of the chest, pull the abdomen back in order to lift the breath into the rib cage. Feel the rib cage expand. You can even give a little extra rotation of the upper arm bones to support the lift and expansion of the chest. And then as you exhale, seep the breath out, slow it down slightly. Draw the navel in toward the spine in order to slow the breath down. And then feel the breath leaving through your legs, through your toes. Okay, so we're continuing this awareness, but now we're adding just a little bit more effort, a little bit more effort, a little bit more consciousness in order to enhance the movement of the prana in the trunk into the chest region, heart and lungs, all the way up to the collarbone. So now starting to work with the breath a little bit more actively. So now it's not just a passive observation, now it's a little bit more active engagement, making the breath a little slower, a little softer. But not to let the breath stop at the trunk, but continuing the breath through the legs, through the toes. Now, if you're ready to go a little further, let's add some Viloma action. So the first stage of Viloma will be from the toes all the way up to the lower abdomen. Just like maybe a little bit above the pubis. Second stage of Viloma is going to be from the just above the pubis to the bottom of the ribs. And then the third stage will be the entire ribcage all the way to the collarbones. So the first stage is kind of like through the legs. And so you might not, it's not going to be like a big breath or anything like that. But hopefully you'll feel that's energetic flow. So we'll do a few cycles all together and then you'll be on your own. We're going to do Viloma inhale. Exhale completely. All the way through the toes. Inhale from the toes to the pubis. Pause. Inhale from the pubis to the bottom ribs. Pause. Inhale all the way through the rib cage to the collarbones, to the throat. Pause. And then exhale and seep the breath out. One slow, smooth exhale. All the way through the legs, all the way through the feet. Beginning the next cycle, resting breath if you need. Inhale from the feet to the pubis, just above the pubis. Inhale from the pubis to the bottom ribs. Feel the abdomen pulling back to support the movement of the breath. Inhale, the entire rib cage expands. And all the way up to the pit of the throat. And then slow, soft, smooth exhale. All the way through the legs. All right. Continue on your own, and then after one more Viloma cycle, then return to the resting breath. When you've finished, then fold your hands in, bend your legs, and roll out your bolster to the side. Rest on your side for a couple of breaths. Okay. Let's do a little bit of seated pranayama. So with your bolster, horizontal bolster, have 2 blankets nearby. And let's cross the right leg in and the left leg, Vastikasana, and support your thighs, support your knees. Not so much your thighs, but your knees, so that they can be more or less level. And the knees are coming forward. It's not, so Swastikasana in pranayama, the purpose is to get the uprightness in the trunk. So it's not about going wide with the legs, because often that makes the pelvis tilt forward a bit. So we're working with the height and with the tight cross of the legs and the support of the blanket under the knees to get level in the hips so that the trunk can be perpendicular to the floor. All right, and then the blanket on your lap is to raise your hands a little bit to help with the chest opening. It's a thick folded blanket, 3-fold. Have it nice and wide. So maybe open it up like this. Let me see. Yeah, and then do a 3-fold. Do a 3-fold, S-fold. Yes. So that it's nice and wide. Because the other purpose of the blanket is to allow the hands to descend in line with the shoulders. Otherwise, the hands might be in a little bit, which makes my shoulder bones roll forward. So if I can have the hands a little bit wider, then it's easier to keep the collarbones wide, shoulders back, and chest lifted. All right. Inhale. Exhale. Bring your head down into Jalandhara Bandha. I'm going to keep my head up so I can watch you. See that the trapezium is lengthening downward, shoulders rolling back, but the head is definitely leaning forward. So it's like one friend, she was just saying on Instagram, it's like putting a hood on. It's a feeling of putting your hoodie on. It's a cold day, and you put your hood on over your head, and it's that inward feeling. Inward gesture, inward gaze. So even here, do a few cycles of just exploratory breathing to see how much you can feel the legs or not. So first getting that grounding through the legs. The legs not lifting, but releasing toward the floor. Releasing, but in a contained way. That is to say, the thighs are definitely heavy toward the floor, but also kind of a retraction of the thighs, outer thighs, into the hip socket, so that the legs don't lose the firm connection to the pelvis. In other words, a slight gripping through the outer thighs into the hip sockets to keep that firm connection. So here, it might be a little bit more difficult because the legs are crossed to feel the breath starting in the legs. And like we talked about when you were lying down, it's a consciousness thing, right? Because we don't actually have lung tissue in the legs. The legs are not technically breathing apparatus, but they definitely contain prana. they're definitely subject to prana. So see if you can bring that same consciousness of the prana in your legs to seated ujjayi. Let the breath develop into a slow, soft, steady breath. See if you can feel, once again, that kind of warmth and tingling in your legs. If you were able to have that sensation in the supine pranayama, see if you can recreate that sensation through your consciousness, right? Because it's not like you can will the prana through your legs, but you have to bring your consciousness to meet it. You have to make your consciousness subtle and sensitive enough to feel the prana moving through your legs. Now let's try Viloma here. We're going to try Viloma 6, stage 6, Bahya Abhyantara Viloma. Inhale, exhale Viloma. So it's both inhale and exhale. I'll talk you through the first few cycles, okay? So exhale completely. Inhale through the legs to just above the pubis. Inhale from the pubis to the bottom ribs. Inhale through the entire rib cage all the way up to the collarbones. Exhale through the rib cage. Exhale from the bottom ribs to the pubis. And exhale all the way out through the legs. Resting breath or two. Beginning again. Exhale completely. Inhale through the legs to the pubis. Feel that strong connection. Inhale through the middle of the trunk, the pubis to the bottom ribs. Use the abdominal support. Inhale through the rib cage. Give a little extra boost with your arms. Externally rotating, shoulders back to lift that breath. Then exhale through the rib cage. Exhale from the bottom ribs to the pelvis. Exhale all the way through the legs. Resting breath or two. And try 3 more cycles on your own. Okay, 3 more cycles. It's difficult, if not impossible, to follow somebody else's pace. So you have to really follow your own pace. Rest if you need to. You can do continuous cycles if you don't feel a need. Yeah, it's always good to have tissue nearby for pranayama because water will come out, as Gita points out. In India, everybody has like a little handkerchief that they tuck into the waistband. So that's like a standard thing for pranayama class in India, is your hanky. So because we're clearing out, we're clearing out the respiratory system, the whole energetic system. Make sure your head stays down. Otherwise, we talked about Dharabandha a lot last week. Otherwise, the prana spreads into the head and neck region, which is a little too stimulating most of the time. All right, after you finish your last cycle, keeping your eyes closed, bring your head up once you're done. And then if you're finished, go ahead and stretch your legs out and lie down in Shavasana. Now, I have a suggestion, actually. If you have a chair or a wall, so I'm going to use a wall, but if you don't have a wall, you could use furniture. So let's do kind of a relaxed Urdhva Prasarana Padasana. So the feet can be wide. You don't have to be all the way into the wall, but the feet a little wide to kind of drain the prana from the legs into the toes, okay? And then you can do Swastikasana also in Prasarana Padasana on your back. Well, this is, I guess, like Supta Swastikasana, okay? So we'll do those leg variations to experience the prana in a new position. Or you can have your calves on the chair, that's also fine. So observe the pranic state of the legs in this position, and then feel the femurs dropping into the hip sockets. Let the legs become quiet. The pelvis settle. Back body spread. Brain recede from front to back. So we definitely benefit physiologically from that pranic flow, but we don't want it to be, like a current of a river. We don't want it to be too strong. We need it to be just right? To get through our day, to be our best selves, to feel good all day, to be able to share that feeling good with the people around us. But we don't want too much prana, otherwise we'll feel agitated, you'll feel hyperactive, you might get headaches, and so we also need to know how to quiet down the prana. And that's why pranayama always ends with shavasana, because we're raising the prana in pranayama, but then you need to settle it down. The goal from a yogic perspective is to be in a sattvic state, that state of calmness, clarity, translucence, not hyperactive and not lethargic. So I'm going to let you settle and stay and come out whenever you want. I will officially end the meeting. So good to see you all. Have a wonderful day.